Hello, I am the Ink Otaku, and today we're going to be discussing Overlord Season 2, going over the anime as well as breaking down the differences in the light novel. Like in the Season 1 recap I did, we're going to be going down by each arc. And if you haven't had a chance to check out that video, there's a link in the episode description below. We start with two people from the Slain Theocracy. They discuss the recent mission that the Blacklight Scripture has returned from, and about the disappearance of the Sunlight Scripture at the hands of a man named Ainz Ulgon. Next, in an unknown location, a dragon wakes to see his old friend, Ridget, come to talk to him. She says she's passed on the magic item she received from the Dragon Lord to someone, which turns out to be Gazif. Then, the dragon asks her to gather information on items from Yggdrasil. In the Riesta's kingdom, the king and the nobles are discussing the annual war between the Baharuth Empire. Later, the king apologizes to Gazif about the nobles trying to assassinate him, and him not being able to defend him from their scheming. This is where we also meet Princess Rainier and her guard Climb. The king asks Gavus about Ainz, and he vouches for him and says he's an ally. Now Ainz is out on a quest as Momon. They are hunting a basilisk, and he easily kills it. He tells Nabe and Hamskade to go back to the guild and relay their success as he is going back to Nazarick. He reviews all the information that they have acquired from the Adventurers Guild. They discuss what some of the NPCs are doing outside of Nazarick, but in particular wants to know about the dummy Nazarick that Aura is building, also wants to know about how Shaltir is doing. Albedo says that Aura is doing well, and while Shaltir has no physical damage, she thinks psychologically she is uneasy. Albedo suggests that he punishes her, and Ainz says he'll think on it. Lastly, he gives Cocytus the green light to start the war with the Lizardmen in the Great Lake. In the Great Lake, at the village of the Greenclaw tribe, the village is visited by an undead that tells them death gazes upon them, and they have 8 days to prepare. The Lizardmen discuss what they should do, and they try to get all of the other Lizardmen tribes to join together. They send Zaryushu, a traveler, to talk to the tribes Red Eye and Dragon Tusk. First, Zaryushu goes to the Red Eye and meets Crush Lulu, their acting chief, and immediately falls in love with her. After talking, she agrees to ally with the Greenclaw tribe, and the two make their way to Dragon Tusk. Meanwhile, Cocytus is preparing his army against the Lizardmen. Zaryushu and Crush make their way to Dragon Tusk, and they meet Chief Zembaru, and he says the tribe only trusts the strong, so the two fight, and Zaryushu is victorious. With all the tribes, they become the Lizardman Alliance, and Cocytus sends his army to attack. The Lizardmen defeat the undead army, and Nazarick has its first loss. Entima informs Cocytus that Ainz wants to talk to him. Ainz gathers the Guardians, and introduces Victim. Ainz tells Victim that he will use a special skill if someone uses a world-class item on the guild. He tells Shaltir that he will think of a punishment for her. Ainz punishes Cocytus by ordering him to fight the Lizardmen by himself. And lastly, Ainz orders Gargantua to activate, and they all make their way to the Lizardman village. Ainz tells the Lizardman that they will face off against Cocytus, and if they win, he will leave them alone, and if not, they will be under his rule. The tribe has a meeting and decides that only 5 should fight, and that Crush should stay behind so the tribe still has a leader. Ainz and group goes to the dummy Nazarick to watch the fight. Ainz sees a chair that Demiurge has made for him and is not about it, and decides that Shaltir will be his chair. Cocytus makes his way to the Lizardmen. He completely obliterates them with no effort. Ainz praises Cocytus and makes him the ruler of the Lizardmen, but he can't rule by fear. He also requests that Crush watch over any other Lizardmen thinking of rebelling against him, and he will bring back Zaryushu if she agrees to. Zaryushu is resurrected, and makes a request that his comrades be resurrected as well. Ainz considers the request and tells him to preserve the bodies. On the way back to the mansion, after stopping by the Magician's Guild, Sebas saves a girl named Tuare from a man who looks like he was about to dispose of her. Instead of fighting the guy, Sebas gives the man some money and tells him to flee the country. Sebas returns, and Solution isn't happy that he brought a human back. Sebas tells her to assess her condition. She does, and tells him that she has multiple diseases, some broken bones, as well as addicted to some form of drug. Sebas tells her to heal her, and Solution unwillingly does. Meanwhile, also in the capital, Brain has been staying with Gazif. At night, Adamantite group Blue Rose raids an 8 Fingers drug plantation. They find a piece of parchment that contains a lead on 8 Fingers. I'm assuming even later that night, 8 Fingers is having a meeting about that raid, Also, Coco Doll asked Zero to get a woman back that was supposed to be disposed of, and Zero accepts. The next day, Climb is training, Gazif comes and they duel. After, Gazif tells Climb that while he lacks talent, he should still gain experience. Climb makes his way to the princess and runs into noble Marquis Raven, as well as second Prince Zanak. The prince warns Climb about the princess's real personality, which he refers to as a monster. Climb gets to the princess's room to see her with the members of Blue Rose. They are discussing Eight Fingers, and Renaer deciphers the parchment, revealing various locations that Eight Fingers use in the capital. Leader of Blue Rose, Lachius, asks Climb to tell the other members of Blue Rose what they found. As he leaves, it's shown that two maids that have been eavesdropping work with the nobles that have eight-finger ties. Meanwhile, Sebas and Solution are visited by two men, Staffin and Succulent. They tell Sebas that he has one day to turn over Tsuare, and after they leave, Sebas tells Solution that he's going to go for a walk. Solution contacts Ainz and reports that Sebas may have betrayed them. Climb informs Gagarin and Evil Eye of Lachius' message. After leaving, Climb and Brain both follow Sebas after he defends a boy. Climb asks for a lesson, and Sebas agrees to test him. Climb overcomes his fear of death by thinking of Renaer. Before Sebas can give him another lesson, Brain interrupts and also wants to learn from him. However, they are surrounded by 5 assassins that they easily take out. Sebas uses this skill to interrogate one of the men and find out where Succulent is, and the three make their way to a brothel. Sebas goes in the front while Brain and Climb go through the side. Inside, Sebas finds Staffin beating a slave girl, and Sebas kills him. Brain and Climb get to a storage room. Brain scouts ahead while Climb stays put. While waiting, Coco and Succulent enter through a secret door. Succulent uses his illusion magic to injure Climb until Brain returns and defeats him. The two Eight Fingers are arrested and the three go their separate ways. When Sebas returns to the mansion, Solution informs him that Ainz is waiting for him. Climb returns to Renaer and is happy that he's safe. After Climb leaves, she calls the maid that was eavesdropping, and it's safe to assume to say that she kills that maid for talking bad about Climb. Back at the mansion, Ainz wants to test Sebas' loyalty by telling him to kill Tsuare. Just as Sebas' mid-punch, Cocytus blocks it. Ainz is satisfied with his resolve, and then asks Tsuare if she would like to live in Nazarick. She said she would if Sebas was there. Ainz decides that she's under his protection, and she will be made a provisional maid, while Sebas is removed from leader of the Pleiades. While Ainz and Demiurge are alone, Demiurge asks if he knew the girl, and Ainz replied no, but he knew her sister, Nina, from the Swords of Darkness. The next morning, Sebas and Solution are off to acquire grain for Demiurge, leaving Tsuare alone in the mansion. Elsewhere, Renaer and Blue Rose are discussing their next course of action to take on Eight Fingers. She next brings her brother Zanak and noble Marquis Raven to enlist the help of soldiers for the raids. Once back at the mansion, Sebas finds a note from Eight Fingers saying that they've took Tsuare and gives Sebas a location to go to. He contacts Ainz, and Ainz orders his subordinates to rescue Tsuare and destroy Eight Fingers. Demiurge gathers a group to explain Operation Genhela, telling them that they are not to kill a certain person under any circumstances, but they don't show you who that is. Sebas goes to the location from the letter and run into Climb and Brain. He says that he will deal with Six Arms if they go and save Tsuare. While sneaking into the strongholds with no issue, they reach the cell holding Tsuare. Sebas kills 4 of the members of Six Arms with no effort. Elsewhere, Mare and Entima capture Hilma, leader of the drug division of Eight Fingers. Mare leaves Entima to take the valuables from the house. While there, she runs into Gagarin, Evil Eye, and Tia. They fight and defeat Entima. Just before Tia is about to deliver the final blow, Demiurge in a mask comes and saves Entima. Sensing his power, Evil Eye tells the other two to run, but Demiurge kills them accidentally with Hellfire Wall. An enraged Evil Eye goes to attack. Then Momon the warrior shows up and asks which one of him will be his foe. Evil Eye states her name and rank, and then Momon turns to the guy in the mask. Demiurge gives the name Yaldameoth as his introduction. The two fight for a while, then Yaldameoth escapes, more like Ainz lets him leave. After, Evil Eye tells Momon that someone in her party can use resurrection magic. As they talk, Nabe points out some kind of circle of fire engulfing the city. Back with Climb and Brain now, they are making their way out and they run into Zero. Brain and Zero start to fight, and it turns out that Suare is actually Succulent using illusion magic. Climb takes on Succulent again, this time winning using martial art ball kicker. And eventually, Sebas arrives with Suare and kills Zero. With that done, they leave. Sebas says he'll take Suare somewhere safe, and Brain and Climb go to where all the adventurers are waiting to begin the battle. Before the battle, Renair, Zanuck, and Raven are talking, and Renair says that if Climb dies, that she'll just get Lachius to use resurrection magic on him, and she shows him her creepy ass face. The battle between adventurers and Yaldabaoth's forces begins. While Momon, Nabe, and Evil Eye go straight for Yaldabaoth, Brain runs into Shoutir and manages to cut off her fingernail and then just runs away. The three make it to Yaldabaoth and the groups begin to fight. Yaldabaoth and Momon go to a separate area and they discuss Demiurge's plan. Eventually, Yaldabaoth withdraws from the capital. The demonic disturbance is now over. The next day, Momon and Nabe set out to head back to Erantel. Elsewhere, Aura decrees that the remaining Eight Fingers operatives are now servants of Ainzul Gon. While some are resistant, Hilma urges the twins to let her mull them over to make them loyal out of fear of not wanting to return to being tortured by Koko Hyuko. Aura allows it, affirming that they have now taken control of half the country. Ainz returns to Nosric and sits on his throne. Lastly, we meet Emperor Jerknev and Flutter of the Baharuth Empire. Jerknev's ordered Flutter to gather information on both Ainz and Momon. So Season 2 draws from Volumes 4, 5, and 6. And unlike Season 1, there's not that many differences, but it does go into a lot more detail, like Volumes 1, 2, and 3. Like the first thing is the Lizard Man treasures. While they're in the anime itself, they don't really go into much detail of what they are. One of them is the Great Wine Cask that has an unlimited supply of wine, and to be honest, that's something I wish I had. I always think about how if I had a dumb superpower, it would be a cup that I can just fill up with any type of liquid drink that I want, and then it runs out, I can just get something else. But the other thing is the armor that the Razortail tribe chief wore, and it's the item said to be cursed in terms of when they put it on. If the smarter the wearer is, the higher the defense is, and it can even get up to, it said, adamantium level hardness. However, when you take it off, the intelligence that you lose doesn't go back. So that's why they said it's cursed. And as for the fourth treasure, it hasn't been mentioned. I tried even going on the wiki and seeing but it hasn't even been mentioned. The next thing is I guess I'd say that's that's not really any different, but the next thing is when Climb puts the dye on his armor to change the color. They say that some dyes actually add a resistance to fire, ice, elemental damages will be resisted. Lastly, when Hilma is captured by Mare, she tries to seduce him and try to fight him back. She uses a magical item, which it doesn't show in the anime, but she actually has two tattoos on her arms that are snakes, and they come out, and she's holding him, holding his neck, and they come out and go to bite him, but he just grabs them and just crushes them in his hand, it says. And it's kind of hard to imagine seeing as that character is so nice and non aggressive, but that's really all the differences that that was worth mentioning. And that is it for the recap of Overlord Season 2. Thank you. I'll see y'all later.